The Adventures of Batman with Robin Boy Wonder. Batman and Robin, dynamic duo against crime and corruption, whose real identities as millionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne and his young ward Dick Grayson are known only to Alfred, the faithful butler. Ever alert, they respond swiftly to a signal from the police, and moments later, from the secret Batcave deep beneath Wayne Manor, they roar out to protect life, limb, and property as Batman and Robin, Cape Crime Fighters. Batman and Robin, scourge of Gotham City's kooky criminals. The Joker, clown prince of crime. The Penguin, pudgy purveyor of perfidy. And the cool, cruel Mr. Freeze. Watch out, villains. Here come Batman and Robin.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're coming close to the end now of our look at the Filmation 1968 series, which we've been doing with an eye towards making comparisons with the 66 series, as we've been doing with all of our looks at the Green Hornet, the Batman 66 comic, and including now also Robert Long and I taking a look at the god-awful foreign films based on Batman, which has been interesting. And that laughter you hear in the background, let me bring him in. He's been there since the beginning with the 68 Filmation series. He's been with us through a number of Batman 66 episodes, and he's also been our man when it comes to the merchandising of Batman 66 from 13thdimension.com, the man himself, Mr. Dan Greenfield. Hey, Dan.
Hello, John.
We were saying this at the end. I am sad, too, and especially because this show really started hitting its stride in the second half.
Yeah, it really did. There's a lot more creativity. The first half of the season overall, I think there's some great stuff in there, as we've discussed, but there was a lot of, particularly in the middle period, there was a lot of formula episodes.
Yeah.
And we were seeing a lot of the same things being played out slightly differently. Now it's, as they were getting later in the series, or what we think of as later in the series, they introduced new villains. They were a little bit more, for the most part, I think a little bit more creative. I think that they were really flexing their muscles more, and the show really started to hit its stride. It's just unfortunate that it never went past the original run. But it's also, we were talking, offline just now. We're about to do 2 episodes. Well, first, why don't you give them the episodes that we're going to talk about?
Okay. They're both Riddler episodes. One is called Jigsaw Jeopardy. The other is called Wrath of the Riddler, and both of them are written by Oscar Bensall.
Right. And the reason we've paired these episodes together is because there isn't really, it seems, a 100% accurate or at least credible listing online of when these episodes first aired. So we've been pairing them, the way iTunes pairs them?
No, actually the way Wikipedia has been pairing them.
Wikipedia pairing them, which is not the same as always, right? Because they are paired differently on iTunes, and I think that they're paired differently on the discs that you can buy. I'm not 100% sure about it. The discs and the iTunes might be the same. I watch it on iTunes, so that's what I remember. But we were about to do 2 Riddler episodes, and we had this happen with Catwoman also, where I'm not 100% sure that these actually aired together the first time they ran on CBS back in the late 60s. What was the supposed date would have been, I guess, late 68, early 69 for these, the ones that we're about to talk about. But all that aside, you get to one great Riddler episode and in my opinion, one okay episode of the Riddler. But I think you feel a little differently about the second one. But why don't we get started?
It's interesting. You say one great, one okay. I did find both of them really good. I find that the one we're about to talk about now is probably, in my estimation, the closest feeling to a 66 episode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I find the first one, which is Jigsaw Jeopardy, the 2-parter that we're going to discuss, to be one of the wackiest, silliest episodes of Filmation Batman. This is a go-to. My son we watch these things together. We have since he was little. Now he's not so little. He's, pretty much an adult now. But we still, just for laughs, turn these things on, and it's almost like our own Mystery Science Theater where we pretty much heckle them as we watch. This one has been a go-to for us for years now because there are so many leaps of logic and so many strange things that happen in it that it's just it is one of my absolute favorites. So I guess we should get to it.
Right.
The Drill Red Puzzle Factory in Gotham City, where the Prince of Puzzlers practices a new kick, painting.
Hey, that's beautiful, Riddler. Want I should cut it up into a puzzle?
Might as well, Jigsaw. The new art museum rejected this masterpiece. But I shall avenge my wounded vanity.
Gee, what can you do to an art museum?
What happens when you remove the R from the word varnish? You make it vanish. And that, men, is what we're going to do to the new museum.
That night, at Gotham City's Art Museum, a burglar alarm summons the police.
We didn't steal nothing yet, Riddler. What kind of caper is this?
What do you call a Russian fish? A red herring. Come on.
We open with Riddler, who has developed an interest in painting, and his latest work is a painting of himself, Catwoman, Joker, and Penguin. We got our united underworld gathered here.
Right. Only Catwoman is wearing, I think, a different outfit than
Yes.
she wears in the cartoon. She wears the green and white, and here it's a different look entirely, which makes you wonder. Again,
It's a one piece.
yeah, and the thing about Filmation is that one of the things we love about it is how sloppy it was. They really were just making it up as they went along. So the idea that Catwoman looks significantly different than she does when she's actually on the show is classic Filmation.
It's classic Filmation, or we could just say that this is Riddler's idealized version of Catwoman.
You could, sure. If you want to go in that direction, go on ahead.
Well, he's upset because his painting was rejected by the Gotham City Art Museum, and now he wants to destroy the museum.
Right. Yeah, sure. This is more like a Joker thing than a Riddler thing, but yeah, let's have at it.
Right, exactly, yeah. We cut to Bruce, who's working out, and Alfred brings him the hotline. They never call it the bat phone. They call it the hotline.
No. Yeah. I don't know if it was a rights thing or if it was for whatever reason, but yes, they always call it the hotline.
Right. But, he brings it to him, which I thought was interesting, too.
Right.
The duo decide to meet Gordon at the museum, and there they meet with him and one of the artists whose paintings are on display, but they discover that one of his paintings has been vandalized as Riddler has written new riddles on it.
Yeah, well, Robin is the one who discovered. He's like, "Hey, what's this writing? Is this writing? What writing? I didn't do any writing." The painter's great.
Yes.
His voice is great. He's this.
Thank goodness they did not spoil my painting. This is Mr. Pierre Van Schmeer. He painted this mural.
My pleasure, sir.
This is beautiful, Mr. Van Schmeer. But what do these words on Sir Jonathan's scroll mean?
That words. I did not paint words.
Again, stereotypical. I think he's wearing a beret.
Yes.
He's wearing his smock.
He's got his smock.
He's got a smock on and everything. And yeah, we're already off to the races here.
Never mind, it's nighttime. There's no paint on it. It's just because painters wear smocks.
Right, exactly. This is what they do.
Yeah, exactly. But from the clues that Riddler leaves behind, they work out that he plans to blow up the museum. And I love this later because Riddler says, yes, and when I do, it'll be the world's greatest jigsaw puzzle as they try to put everything back together.
Right, so bringing it all the way back to the Riddler's own classic shtick.
Right, exactly. This episode... and part of the reason I say I could see it as a 66 episode, it's got a lot of the touchstones of things we would recognize as 66. Like you said, the whole shtick with Riddler and stuff and blowing it up and everything. And then what we do is we get Batman and Robin casing out the museum, Robin in a suit of armor, Batman hiding in a sarcophagus. Those are two right out of the 66 series.
Yeah, it's true. Man, I love the Silver Age. I really do. I mean, because this is a combination of a Batman 66 episode and Silver Age Batman comics. And it also is, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but man, I love the Riddler. I really do. And, I always have. And even though there are some inherently silly elements of the character, that's what makes him so great. I just love the Riddler. I love his shtick. And even though this is not Frank Gorshin, it's Ted Knight doing Frank Gorshin.
Yeah.
And so you've got this pastiche. It's just great. I love the Riddler.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, since Robin is in the armor, he's not able to move as quickly. Riddler spots him, so he captures him and takes him away in his Riddler copter.
Right. Yeah, it's got a Riddler copter.
See, this thing's got everything for everybody.
Yeah, it does. Well, again, this is where I do like the animation. Of course, allows them it's the recurring theme allows them to do things they didn't do on the show.
Right.
They do things on the show. Yeah.
Batman calls in to Gordon, telling him about the abduction, and Barbara overhears the whole conversation.
Of course, she hears. She knows more about what's going on.
It's so funny because
in the police department than the cops themselves.
Right, exactly. But it's so funny because in this whole series, I don't think we ever see her once in the library, but she is a librarian, they say.
Right. They do mention that. Yes, everything. She's always just happens to be in Commissioner Gordon's office when these things happen.
Right. Exactly. But it gets her thinking because they're looking for a puzzle factory that Riddler could be hiding out in. So she decides to go back to her apartment and looks at the box of, I guess, a puzzle she's working on.
Yes, the Drill Red Puzzle Company.
Yes.
Or Jigsaw Company. And what I love about it is that she's sitting there or standing there thinking about it. She says, Drill Red. I've always thought that was a strange name. And no, you haven't. No, you have not, Batgirl. You have not spent any time at all in your life wondering whether Drill Red Puzzle Company was actually a strange name or not. That is one of the dorkiest things that Filmation has ever done. And of course, it doesn't take, even a 5-year-old could figure out that Drill Red is Riddler, is an anagram for Riddler. I mean, it's just, but Drill Red Puzzle Company. I've always wondered about that. You have not, Batgirl. Not at all.
I love though because then with Batman, it's like if you didn't get it when he's looking at the computer cards, the letters just shift automatically.
Yeah, see, she's just kind of thinking it over. He goes to the Bat computer and. Again, to hammer the point home, it says Drill Red, and then it just magically changes so that you get the idea. Of course, it's not actually changing. It's a really neat little effect. You're seeing it in Batman's mind, basically.
Right.
In his mind, he's seeing the words, and he's figuring it out. So it's a really kind of a nice visual trick that they do.
Right.
And it's also good for, kids to, make the point. Oh, Drill Red is Riddler. Yeah. So this is Silver Age all the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did love, because then once she figures that out, she goes over to the
bat closet.
The secret bat closet, where Barbara switches to crime-fighting Batgirl.
I'll give the Riddler something to puzzle by wearing another costume over this.
We never saw her apartment so far in the Filmation series. We never saw, how she goes about changing and stuff. I mean, it's not the whole wardrobe change thing, but
no,
she's got a closet.
Yeah, but it's again, as we've always said, there are things that they did. We know that this show was deeply, substantially influenced by the 1966 show, but it was a totally different, creative crew. They were animation writers, and also some of them were writers for DC Comics, and there was a lot of back and forth there. They weren't sitting there with discs and with VHS tapes and whatever, going over episodes and saying, what should we take? No, it was in the zeitgeist.
Right.
So they knew what they needed to do. So you're right. It does definitely feel from that world. And because of that, there are a lot of the campier elements, although they tend to be played straighter on the cartoon because they're just simply writing it for kids. They're not writing it with double entendres or innuendo or writing for adults and having adults get the joke. It's really for kids, although, as we've established before, sometimes the writers would seem to be amusing themselves by introducing things into the show.
Right, yeah. Now, she also makes a comment, though, that she plans on wearing another costume over it, which I was like, okay, maybe she's going to sneak in as like a guard or some. I don't know. It's just I didn't think much of it until we see later on who she's dressed up as, and I'm like, what?
Which is Robin.
Yeah.
And this is where the episode really just goes off the tracks.
Yeah.
It like what is the rationale here at all for her to then dress up as Robin? What does she gain by doing that? Based on what she knows, and again, we're not supposed to think these things through, really. We're just supposed to kind of roll with them.
Right.
But at no point is there any logic to her deciding, I'm not just going to wear my Batgirl costume, I'm going to wear a Robin costume over my Batgirl costume. Because she doesn't know anything that's going on right now. She's doing this totally on a hunch. And you're watching this and thinking, what?
Yeah.
Why? What? For what reason is she doing this? What is the rationale? And she really never says, other than say, "I think this will be a good idea."
No, she does. She does say what the reason is, but it's still stupid.
Well,
she says she wants to convince Riddler that he's captured the wrong person.
Okay, fine. Then see how memorable that is. That I've seen this episode 50 freaking times, and it doesn't even resonate. But that doesn't make any sense either.
It doesn't.
It does. That's nonsense.
Yeah. No, it is absolute nonsense. And in fact, her stupid plan backfires. We'll find out later on. Yes. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's the only thing. Much as I loved seeing Batgirl in this series, she was not, I mean, with very few exceptions, she was not written very well.
She was very inconsistently written throughout the series. As we've established, there are certain episodes, and we have another episode of the podcast to come where we do the last two segments, which is one in which Batgirl does not really come off well at all. But not to get too far ahead of ourselves. But yeah, they were very inconsistent, very chauvinistic. Right. Their approach to Batgirl was real middle-aged dudes, chomping on a cigar in 1968, and girl crime fighters and all that stuff. There was a lot of that, of course, on the TV show, the live-action show also, but that was more. It was more played with a wink because Batgirl was the smartest person in the room on the TV series, on the 66 series. They always showed her to be consistently as smart as, if not smarter than Batman in terms of figuring things out. She frequently was able to get to the bottom of things without the benefit of a bat computer. Right. She was very, very sharp. On the cartoon, they've made her more of the damsel in distress, more of the, third wheel, and it's unfortunate because, of course, Batgirl is a great character and she deserves better. Right. And this is one of those cases where they kind of have her do this, but it doesn't really make much sense. Right, but exactly. Other than that, actually, she acquits herself rather nicely in the rest of this episode because she is instrumental in the way things play out. Yeah, no, absolutely. And in the middle of all this, while they're figuring this all out, Riddler has Robin tied spread eagle on a giant puzzle cutter. Yeah, this is like right out of Goldfinger. Yeah. With, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Yeah, this is kind of horrible. Yeah. But it is what it is, and yes, he's going to be split in half right up the middle if things go south for Robin here. Right. Right. But I have to say, though, as awkward as it is, there's some of the shading in this scene is fantastic. Yes. When you see the Riddler kind of looming over Robin, and we've said this before, sometimes when they just show single still images that aren't animated, there are some really good looks that we get here. And it's a reminder, of course, the talent behind all this, that even though the producers of these shows were meaning the people actually on the line doing the animating and the writing, it was all, there wasn't much time and or budget for them to make these things, so there were a lot of shortcuts. But every once in a while, you'll get a glimpse of something that looks really, really cool. Exactly. Batman arrives at the factory, does a back climb up the side of the building. He's surprised by Robin, who we now know is Batgirl. Right. Right, and she briefly tells him that she's, why she's dressed up. Right, and he's like, "Good idea." Good idea. Like, that's not a good idea at all, Batman. Stop humoring her. Yeah. This is not a good idea because it doesn't make any sense. No. This is silly.
This is really of all the Filmation stuff, this is pretty silly. Yeah,
it definitely takes it one step beyond what you're expecting.
Right, exactly. Riddler gets the signal that Batman's in the building, so he sets up this acid trap. It's an acid vat covered with a fake floor made of paper. When Batman enters the room, he'll step on the floor, fall into the trap. And Batman and Batgirl are actually guided to the door when they step onto stairs that turns into a slide and slides them down to the door.
Now, when the dynamic boar opens that door and steps on the floor, he will be no more.
Hold it, Batgirl.
Oh, boy. That first step is a dandy.
Stay close. Come on.
Batman and Batgirl come ever closer to the thin paper floor over the tank of acid. Elsewhere in the factory, the boy wonder struggles to free himself, knowing it is imperative he warn Batman of the terrible trap Riddler has set.
Put on your Robin mask and wait here while I see what's on the other side of that door.
Right.
No, Batman, no! Can it be the canny king of conundrums has concocted a cute camouflage that will cancel the careers of the courageous Caped Crusaders? Whatever you do, stay tuned for the thrilling, action-packed conclusion coming up next.
Voice control, Kennedy Airport. The tower speaks and tells you what to do.
TWA Flight 7, clear to land. Remco's voice-controlled Kennedy Airport is just like a real airport. You get over 16 different orders from the tower's electro-recorder that you hear through your earphones. Listen.
Ground control clears United 117.
Kids, for real excitement and adventure, take off with Remco's voice-controlled Kennedy Airport.
Don Knotts is the incredible Mr. Limpet, and fun for the whole family is the forecast for the Friday night movies this week on CBS.
Hello? Hi, Julie. Now listen. Guess who's here to talk to you?
I love being a fashion model.
Who's that? That was my new talking Barbie. A talking Barbie? I'm going to come on over right now. Let's just see what she says this time.
Would you like to go shopping? Stacy and I are having a tea.
Who's Stacy? That's my other surprise. She's Barbie's new friend. She talks too.
Hello there. I'm called Stacy.
Now Barbie talks, and so does her new friend, Stacy. She comes from England. Barbie is the very same size she's always been. She and Stacy can even wear the same clothes. Mattel's new Talking Stacy.
I think miniskirts are smashing.
And Talking Barbie.
What shall I wear to the prom?
Want to talk to you.
What a guest list. Eddie Albert, Lainey Kazan, George Kirby, Charlie Manna, and many more. What a show. The Ed Sullivan Show, tonight on CBS.
Emerging from the Riddler's labyrinth, Batman and Batgirl arrive at a door which, unknown to them, leads to a vat of fuming and fatal acid, concealed under a paper floor. While in another room, Robin struggles desperately to free himself.
Got to break loose. Must warn Batman about acid trap. The jigsaw. If only I can reach it. There.
When part 2 opens, it's funny. I liked it. Robin starts to manipulate the jigsaw board he's on because I guess it's on wheels anyway. So he has 2 fingers free, and he's able to force himself to guide the board to the blade so he can cut his leg free and then cut one of his hands free.
Right. But here's the thing. What he does is that he walks his fingers, like let your fingers do the walking.
Yes.
And he does that to pull himself along. The only thing about that, if you notice, his fingers sprout little feet so that the actual joint, as opposed to going inward, goes outward. So as he's walking along, his fingers actually have feet.
Yes.
That allow him to walk along and pull himself out of the jam. Again, That is the most absurd thing that I think that as far as images or the ways of getting out of a trap, that we see Robin's his hands, his fingers actually sprout feet so that he can get out of the jam.
Right.
Again, it's just one of those silly things that Filmation did, but when I'm watching it now, I'm just like howling with laughter every time I see it.
Now, meanwhile, we've got Batgirl having trouble with her mask. It keeps slipping off, so Batman helps. It's enough of a delay.
Her Robin mask,
yes.
Over her Batgirl mask.
Right, exactly. But that whole little bit there is enough of a delay for Robin to get free to warn them not to step into the room.
Right. But it is a little creepy, though, to see when her mask falls off. First off, it's all smushed like.
Yeah.
So it looks really strange. But then you see Batgirl's head on Robin's body. And it's like, wait a minute. I'm not prepared for this. This is confusing me. I don't know what's happening here.
Well, it's weird, too, because I don't know how the models worked and everything like that. Because, they reused a lot of footage.
Sure.
There's a brief scene of her and Batman walking with her not wearing the Robin mask, and it is the most awkward walk.
Yeah.
Because I think they were trying to line up the shots of, it's like, it's Robin's body, but it's Batgirl's head, and the whole thing just doesn't work.
Right, and then when you see Batgirl's head on Robin's body, it looks like it's been clip arted on.
Yes.
It doesn't even look like it's drawn. It just kind of hovers over his neck.
Yes.
It's like no neck at all. It's just like on the top of his shoulders. It's one of these things that I love it because it is indelibly Filmation, but it's so ridiculous.
Right. Yep. Now,
and again, the subtext being is that this makes no sense that this is even happening at all.
Right.
I'm like this still we haven't seen a good reason for this to pay off.
Right, exactly. Well, it pays off in the sense of, she becomes girl hostage again because...
Yeah, but even then, it's like you didn't have to do this to get there.
Right. No, you didn't. Batman swings across the room, and they're like, okay, Batgirl, your turn. But Riddler has grabbed Batgirl, thinking she's Robin.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's important for him not to know who he actually kidnapped. I don't know. All right. Sure, Mr. Bensall. That's cool.
Right. Riddler leaves a clue behind to Riddle for the duo that he is headed to the museum. I thought this was cool, too. They chase after him in the Batmobile, but in order to save some time and to catch up with his truck, they change the Batmobile into a hydromobile and ride it along Gotham River.
Right.
Yeah,
because the Batmobile can do all sorts of... we've also seen that the Batmobile can also be a hovercraft.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So they get to the museum, and again, it's like, let's just pull all the stops. We'll show you some of the stuff that you're familiar with from the 66 series, but we'll also do the cool things that, like, we can do as Filmation. Robin ejects from the Batmobile and leaps onto the roof. And since he's out of sight, Batman first points out to Riddler that Robin has escaped.
Hold it, Riddler. Your plan has already laid an egg.
That's far enough, Batman. Take one more step, and this egg grenade scrambles the Boy Wonder.
Riddle me this, Riddler. When is a boy wonder like a kid with the measles?
When he breaks out?
Correct.
Impossible. If Robin's escaped from this truck, he really is a Boy Wonder.
But Robin calls out.
Thanks for the compliment, old buddy.
It distracts everybody. A bat fight breaks out.
Thanks, Batman. At a time like this, it pays to be yourself. Won't need this anymore. Let's join Robin.
No, you go for the police while we hold these rascals here.
Oh, no. Okay, boss man.
Get him, Jigsaw, now!
Yeah, all right, boss.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of the things where they're not really treating Batgirl well. And I guess this is the payoff of why she dressed up as Robin, but it's all backwards. None of it makes any sense.
Thanks. Think we can take all these guys?
No, but we've got to keep them here until the police arrive.
Hey, Cape Crusaders, what comes after a summer? A fall! We'll take them to the puzzle factory. Crossword, you follow in the Batmobile. Quick!
It doesn't affect the plot really at all.
Right.
It's just something that's introduced that really is nonsensical. But yeah, then you get the indignity of, after all of that, she has to be the one to go off and get the cops as opposed to just trying to take these guys down, which, again, it suits what they were doing for the story, I suppose. But Batgirl, again, is kind of treated like the like I said, the third wheel of the terrific trio.
Right. Exactly. Batman and Robin hold them off as long as they can, but they are eventually brought down.
Right.
Now, they're placed in a trap back at Riddler's hideout, a room filled with the explosive eggs that Riddler was going to use to blow up the museum.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one of those things where the eggs have really nothing to do with the gimmick of the villain. They have nothing to do with the actual reason for his... whatever his scheme has nothing to do with eggs. It's just that had to do with the answer to a riddle that he gave. So now eggs have entered into the story. So it's, again, you're throwing this whole other thing into it that really doesn't belong. There's really no logic to it, other than the fact that was the answer to his riddle. So now all of a sudden, smoke eggs have been introduced into the story.
Right.
But this is kind of a cool, like you said, like a classic 1966 death trap here.
It is, because it's like, oh, we can get out of this really easily. You just got to tiptoe around the eggs. The problem is the floor is also covered with like a gas of smoke, so it's hard for them to see the eggs.
Right, because if they step on, like, they're in the middle of this chamber and they're locked in by this kind of hydraulic arm, I guess.
Right.
Their backs are to each other, and there are all these exploding eggs on the floor. Then they put in the gas, and now anywhere they step could be potentially like stepping on a mine.
Right, exactly. But Batman is able to reverse the airflow and clear the area of the gas.
Right.
So
much to the Riddler's chagrin.
Right, exactly. And that sort of like then, wraps things up quickly, because since they get free, they go and capture Riddler and his men. Yeah, the ending was a little rushed, but overall, and I love the final shots as Robin is giving the Riddler a riddle.
What is it that seems to run on forever until it comes to a period?
A long sentence.
That's another well-drawn shot, I thought.
Yeah. For all of the teasing that I've done, I love this episode.
Yeah.
I absolutely
love
it. And it makes no sense at all. It's one of the least... It's one of the episodes that really begs Filmation logic.
Right.
More than most of the others, and because it makes so little sense, I actually love it all the more, because this is what I think of when I think of Filmation. Kitschy, schlocky, silly, but really entertaining at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Now, you say okay. I don't know. I thought it was much better than okay. The second story is called Wrath of the Riddler, also by Oscar Bensall.
Yep.
Citizens of Gotham, take heart. Criminals, take heed. The Bruce Wayne Foundation is building an ultra-modern crime lab to serve the city's law enforcement agencies.
Mr. Wayne, every citizen of this town will be most grateful to you for this crime lab.
Not so, Commissioner Gordon. Not every citizen, not the Riddler, who watches from his newest home base, the Durdler Computer Service Company.
That's trouble, Riddler. That crime lab's gonna put our crime computers out of business.
We must prevent that, punch card. We must persuade Mr. Wayne to abandon the project.
Yeah? How? Riddle me that.
How do you make a rich guardian do what you want? You take his ward.
His ward? Dick Grayson. Ha! You sure are smart, Riddler.
It's just compared to the first episode.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite episodes. This is a perfectly fine episode. I don't think of it as among the most memorable episodes. I've watched it a bunch of times, and then I will forget it 5 minutes later. But the setup is very typical Batman 66. You've got Bruce Wayne, doing good deeds in his civilian guise, and I've said this before. I prefer a Batman that has a Bruce Wayne, Wayne that actually is active and takes part in and does the things for the fight on crime that Batman can't do. And it's stuff like this where he uses, publicly he uses his finances to actually help stop crime in other ways.
Right.
And I really like that. It's part of the character that I think in modern day comics really gets lost. But this was very much a part of what Batman comics were like back then, and the TV show was like, is that Bruce Wayne was his own person beyond just being, Batman's secret identity.
Right. Yeah. I think what I just like is there's just some really nice touches throughout this. I mean, first of all, for the majority of the time, it's Bruce and Dick.
Which I also like. I mean, we'll go ahead with the recap.
Right.
I've got a couple things to interject.
Well, the Riddler decides he's got to stop this, so he figures if I kidnap Dick Grayson, Bruce will have to do what I want. So he sends, and of course, being the Riddler, he can't just simply kidnap Dick. He's got to leave a clue. So he sends, and I did like this riddle. What will I have when the hair of my heir loses its color? He'll have a gray son.
Yeah, and it's Batgirl who figures it out. Which,
yes.
Again, goes back to the inconsistent way that she's portrayed, because she's the one who figures it out. And I also like how, and we've seen this before, she figures out the clue, and Commissioner Gordon is aghast, and then she's like, well, I got to go. It's like at this point, she's not like, well, what can I do to help, Dad? She's like, well, I got to get out of here. And, of course, what we know is the reason is because she's got to go change to become Batgirl and head off to Wayne Manor. But, yes, it's a really good Riddler riddle. It's one of the better ones.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, Bruce and Dick return home to Wayne Manor to find Alfred tied up and Riddler waiting to ambush them.
Hanging from a chandelier.
Hanging from a chandelier.
Hold it right there, Mr. Wayne. The Riddler with a riddle. When is a bird in the hand worth two in the bush? When it's an ambush.
It was this way for the 66 TV show. As I always liked that when they would have, you wouldn't want it to be too often, but when they would have the extended sequences where either Bruce Wayne or Dick Grayson were as much a part of the story as Batman and Robin.
No crime lab, Mr. Wayne. Promise. Or there'll be no Dickie boy. Clear? Don't let him scare you, Bruce.
Uh-oh. The Riddler's already here.
And usually you would see it as the two of them were out on the town or at some event. But there were a lot of instances during the live action show where I really appreciated that. And that's similar here, where you really see it as a Bruce and Dick thing. And it's just nice as a change of pace where their other, their civilian guys are as much a part of the story and, get in on some action. So that's always fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. Batgirl arrives at Wayne Manor. She comes in through a window upstairs, and she manages to get Dick out of the goons' grasp by sliding down the banister and knocking into them all.
Right. Well, as soon as you saw her at the top of the stairs, you knew that she was going to take the banister down.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Dick tries to free Bruce, but Bruce tells him to run for it.
Right.
Yeah. I did like this. And Batgirl's pretty good here. She holds them off as Dick is cornered by one of them in the outdoor pool. And I like this also because we get to see a lot of Dick's acrobatic skills.
As Dick Grayson. Yeah, they always used to show, they always used to give lip service, don't fight too hard because somehow people will think that we're Batman and Robin, even though we're two men who are in shape and could probably defend ourselves. They always, they don't even bother with that here. I mean, he pulls a straight on, acrobatic trick to escape because he jumps on and lands on the roof by doing like a backflip or something. But then I thought to myself, well, at least the world does probably know that he was a member of the Flying Graysons. So,
right.
I'm trying to kind of extrapolating there a little bit. But yeah, it's you don't typically see Dick Grayson do that sort of thing on the show.
Right. I mean, he even gets like on a trampoline, boom, up to the roof and all.
Right.
I just really liked all that. But in it all, though, Batgirl is captured. And this is the thing. It's like, once again, girl hostage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Damsel in distress.
Right. Batman and Robin, they become Batman and Robin. They get a riddle that leads them to check out the construction site for the crime lab. And we see that Batgirl is tied up in the darkness. Riddler, and this is interesting. It's not anything they follow up, but at least they get into it a little bit. Riddler talks about how he plans to weaken the cement mixture by adding sand.
Right.
So that the building will eventually come down.
Right.
Yeah. Meanwhile, and I did love this. You got to love the 60s. Batman and Robin talk to the foreman on site, and you can see in his hand he's got a cigar.
Right, yeah, right, exactly. And kiddie animation, Saturday morning TV, smoking.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, that's what adults do.
Right, of course.
And you trust that that's not an influence on the kids.
Right, it just is what it is.
Right, exactly. Batgirl sees that they're there, so what she does is she's able to use her legs to lift up, and then with her feet, she activates the work whistle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a way of letting them know someone else is down there.
Exactly, yeah. A bat fight then breaks out with some really cool shots again of the fight.
Sorry if I bored you.
There's Batgirl and Robin.
That was a lead pipe cinch.
There's more. Come on. Punch card. Get Batman.
The only problem I have is that Batgirl and Robin need to be rescued by Batman in this one.
Punch that on your card.
Batman, Mayday!
It's not really clear as to why they're each kind of put in a jackpot, but yeah, it's just for the added drama of it. I mean, we're talking about a short episode.
Right.
Help! 1 minute, Robin.
They're just keeping the conflict going here, but yeah, they shouldn't have been captured as easily as they were. Batman shouldn't have to get them out of it, but that's it is what it is.
Stand aside, Crusaders. Let me by, and I let you go.
Riddle me this, Riddler. What kind of mill makes tire treads?
A treadmill?
That's my cue.
Stop it! Please, turn it off. That's what I call a running gag, Batman.
Here come the police for the wrap-up.
And, once the fight is over and they're all rounded up and Gordon shows up and everything, we get another wah-wah ending with the whole line of, I heard Barbara's working at Wayne Foundation. And she's like, well, that's not a lie. She's thinking to herself as Batgirl. She's like, it's not a lie. I'm here.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Wah-wah.
And, of course, the first part of me is like, where's Batman Bruce Wayne thinking in his head, I got to look into this. I didn't know we hired her.
Yeah, I know. It's I mean, I don't mean to knock it or anything. It's perfectly fine for what it is. I don't find this one to be terribly memorable compared to some of the other single parters.
Right.
It just, and especially when I compare it to the one we just talked about, which is one of my favorites. So this one is just more of your typical mundane, Filmation one-parter, but it's serviceable. It's perfectly fine.
Right. Exactly. So it's not the end of the Riddler yet, because the next time we do get together, you and I, we've got one more story that he's involved with, actually Joker and Penguin.
Right. One last good team up.
One last good team up there. And we'll be covering that in an upcoming episode. Before we go, though, Dan, 13th Dimension. How's things going over there?
13th Dimension. Good. We're doing our typical comics of yesterday and today, TV shows, cartoons, movies, the same thing. So come pay us a visit. Come check us out. And if you like what you're hearing here, chances are you will like what you will find over there.
And that's 13th Dimension, 13thdimension.com.
Yep, and we're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Very cool. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Batcave podcast. Tune in next week. Robert Long and I are actually going to be here continuing our look at the god-awful foreign films that were based on Batman, particularly Batman 66. And this one in particular, we're looking at Jimmy Batman.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh. And yet, I'll say, I said it before, still better than Nora Clavicle. I'll watch these over that one anytime.
There you go.
There you go. And Dan and I will be back continuing our look at the DC Comics Batman 66 comic, and we've got one more Filmation cartoon to go.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
So until next time, citizens, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Dan, everyone, take care.
Bye now.
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com. Subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com. Or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave Podcast.